Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for participating in the fifth of the five-part webinar series, Digital Trailblazers, brought to you by YASH Technologies. As in the previous four webinar episodes, my name is John Gretter, VP with YASH Technologies. Really excited to introduce our panelists. Praveen Kumar and his team have done another fantastic job of bringing premier thought leaders to share their thoughts and their experiences with legacy to latest application on the digital journey and modernization as a whole. As we've prepared for this final webinar in this series, I can tell you that the thought leaders from the different companies have awesome insights to share, and the takeaways that you'll have are front row seats as they made it through this journey or are actively in this journey themselves. So as we've talked about in the previous episodes, YASH Technologies, specifically the Microsoft service line, the digital service line, really wanted to have an opportunity to keep the thought leadership out there as we've all been experiencing these unprecedented times with the pandemic. And again, thank you to Praveen and the entire Microsoft team. If you haven't had a chance, pop onto LinkedIn. Praveen posted a great overview of the team that's been working behind the scenes to make this all possible. Also, thank you to our panelists today, and thank you to our panelists from the previous four episodes. Hopefully they've been able to tune in for this final installment, and thank you all for your time, not only in the webinar episodes themselves, but in all of the preparation that has taken place in order to make these a success. So not only the team that has been front facing the camera, but everybody behind the scenes, want to thank you for your time. With that, enough listening to me. You've heard me for 4 episodes. This is the 5th. Kick these all off. We've got an action-packed hour for everybody, and every second that I spend talking is taking a second away from our panelists and from Praveen. So I want to get it turned over and make those introductions, and no better person to introduce first than Mike Brannon. Mike has been with us through many of these webinars, and if this is your first time, you're in for a treat getting to listen to what Mike is going to share from a thought leadership perspective. Mike, please introduce yourself or reintroduce yourself to the audience.
So hey guys, Mike Brannon. I'm with National Gypsum, national kind of North American building products operation that's headquartered in Charlotte, North Carolina, where I'm hanging out in the bedroom for the last few months. And we've been on a journey toward a big new SAP deployment that YASH helps us manage.
You do your management as well, Ryan.
It helps us manage from an application point of view. And we've been on a journey toward Azure. We think of ourselves as a Microsoft shop. It started with domain controllers in order to make our email and communication workload light up in the cloud. We've since moved far along the path, and we'll be discussing that more as we get into the seminar.
Mike, thank you very much. Appreciate it, and look forward to hearing more about that journey as we go through the questions here in the next 45 to 50 minutes. Rama, turn it over to you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Rama Thotakura, working at Lehigh Hanson as a manager for the digital products, reporting to North America head of IT, the CIO. So the Lehigh Hanson primarily just want to give you a quick overview. We basically supply the materials. So Lehigh Hanson is basically a North America division of our parent company, Heidelberg Cement, which is one of the country, and Heidelberg has got a presence in, I would say, 45 countries. Our primary line of business is basically we supply materials, say cement, aggregates, any of the building materials, ready mix, asphalt, and many other byproducts. So what do I do in this role is basically like, company has grown. If you look at any of these manufacturing industries, like, there's so many canned product, they're so specific to the manufacturing industry. But the company has seen, the board has seen the visibility and the value of bringing in the digital products. Company is investing heavily in rolling out digital products. So my primary responsibility is to deploy the digital products to North America. But I collaborate with our parent company headquarters. That's where our digital team a bigger team out there where they build the global products. So primarily, I partner with them. We have an extensive model that's put out there, all the top notch. We see the value of deploying these digital products to any of the cloud offerings, especially Azure is the cloud that what we chose to go with. And many of these mobile applications and any of the web presence applications. And lately we are seeing, and due to the COVID situation, we are seeing more and more demand for digital offerings. So I think Azure is the best. I think that's where really YASH is helping also in many of these areas. That's what some of my responsibilities are. Thank you.
Rama, thank you. And like I said to Mike, we'll look forward to hearing more over the next 45 minutes or so. Cody, I'd like to transition over to you. Please make your introduction.
Thanks, John. My name is Cody Allison. I work for Solaire. We're a Hitachi Group company. We specialize in air compressors on a commercial level. So our digital transformation really started a few months back when we met Praveen and YASH. We were on a legacy platform with Mintex for a workflow and process automation application leveraged on the SharePoint platform. We moved from an on-premise type of environment up into Office 365 into the cloud, and the cost of the licensing for the Mintex alone was really expensive, and then the development perspective of it as well was also pretty expensive. So what we've done is leverage the Microsoft technology stack to also encompass our licensing with E3 with Microsoft, and we've started rebuilding these applications on the Power Apps and Power Automate platform. So as an organization, we've had over the last 3 years about 25 workflow applications be developed on the Mintex platform. We're now moving those to the Power Automate platform with the help of YASH, and in a 5-year roadmap, we're expected to save the organization close to, if not more than, $500,000. So the overall cost savings and cost structure is really a benefit, especially when you have that E3 licensing and that Microsoft technology stack.
Yep, that's incredible.
John, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. We have one final introduction. Cyril, please, over to you.
Sure. Hi, everyone. This is Cyril Arkadas. I'm a VP IT with Mr. Cooper. And as most of you are aware, Mr. Cooper is one of the leading financial organizations, and we deal with home loans, servicing, and originations. And I'm part of the servicing business where I head one of the servicing lines for Mr. Cooper. We began our digital journey about 2 years back, and trust me, it was legacy, a lot of homegrown applications and custom builds that we acquired over the period of time, and a lot of internal IP builds over the period of time. So it was quite a challenge. And to give you an example, we were at one point in C++, and today, right now, we moved from 100% on-prem to, I would say, 95% on cloud. We have different flavors. We are across Azure, GCP, and AWS. And right now we are at a stage where, with all the help from the microservices re-architecture that we did over the period of 2 years, we are at a stage where we can expand into new products, get really into the state-of-the-art kind of mobile and text, SMS text banking, you name it, we are there. And I'm happy to share those journeys and stories with everyone on this call, and also learn from my fellow leaders. Thank you all, and thank you for having me here. Over to you, John.
So no, appreciate you taking the time and sharing your perspectives with us. Today's webinar, this is what you can expect from it. We're going to go through a similar format as what you've seen in the previous 4 episodes. We'll go through a roundtable session that's driven by questions from our panelists and answered by Praveen. Then we'll move into a great demo. And I know Praveen and his team have been hard at work on the demo, and the teaser that I saw of it, this will be the most impactful demo that he and the Microsoft team from YASH has shared to date. Really, really valuable. That will kick off around 2:40, 2:45 Eastern time, just to give you an idea of when you can expect to see that. As we go through the roundtable discussion, I'd like to welcome anybody in our live audience to submit questions that you might have using the question function on the control tab on the right-hand side of the GoToMeeting or GoToWebinar service. As we see those questions come in, I'll do my best to fit them into the dialogue between Praveen and the panelists. If we don't get to them, Praveen will let you know at the end of the session today how you can engage with him and the YASH Technologies team directly to continue that conversation and keep the questions going. So with that being said, let's jump right into it. Like I said, gentlemen, Praveen's got this hour action-packed, and I want to get into the content. Mike, you had shared with me as we were getting ready to go live that you wanted to jump off and start things today, and you had a burning question you wanted to share with Praveen. So the floor is yours, sir. Go ahead and start us out.
Sure, thanks a bunch. So as we get our journey well underway and try to scale things up, what we're interested in are some templates, some best practices, some ways, to avoid pitfalls and pratfalls and to ramp things up smoothly, leveraging all of what's out there in the giant Azure cloud and the Microsoft services. So what can you offer to anyone about to get off on this journey by way of power tools as opposed to just tinkering?
Yeah. So I think really, Mike, this depends on the infrastructure as well as the applications that you have on the on-prem. So as you're aware, there are multiple ways in which we can accelerate the cloud migration journey. There are many tools and many templates that are out there. But again, in my experience, one size does not fit for all, right? So, whatever the acceleration tool that we have built or whatever the template that is out there, can I bring that template and then give it to you and then start, and confidently say that, hey, Mike, I have this, start using it, and then, magically this will all appear after the end of the process? The answer is no. I mean, that's not things how it works. So the reason for that is, when the intros were going on, so I was, paying attention to each one of the leader that they have to say about their digital journey. As we all know, we have started a long back about this application. So we started building applications in Pascal and C++, and we all remember that, right? So now, since so much of a effort that is gone in building in those applications, and then now, can I just get rid of those applications and then start moving or start building all the applications on the cloud? Absolutely not. We don't want to do that, right? So there's millions of dollars of investment that has gone in building in those applications. So we have to really look at and then see, what sort of these applications can actually go to the cloud, or is there any opportunity to basically modernize and rehost and rebuild kind of things that we have to look at it. And also, when we do the discovery and assessment of your environment, so typically we start looking at your infrastructure, your applications, the way these applications are talking with themselves and also with others. So when I say with other, so obviously, there is an API mechanism, there is a web services mechanism and all that. So, and at the end of the day, and all of these applications are producing the massive data. So where is this data sitting? So we need to basically look at all of these things, and then security has to be at the center to consider this thing. And once you have a good understanding of what's really going on, and also, and what's my cloud strategy? Do I want to finish my cloud strategy or a cloud journey in 1 year, or maybe in 3 years, or whatever that define the path? Based on that, we will basically cluster these applications into a segmentation. If there are kind of an application lift and shift, or if there is an application, there is a rebuild and rehost and things like that, we will cluster them. And then for the first go, basically it's a kind of a manual effort. But once you are familiarized, with this effort, that's an opportunity for us to templatize that whole process. So with that process, once I have already created a template, an approach, I have the, the command prompt executable files, and I also have the, the CI/CD pipeline created. So now I know the whole mechanism on how this is going on, and where do I need to look at for the security, and how do I need to take care of my networking, all of that needs to be considered. I think I know I'm giving a long answer, but I think that's a challenge with this environment. So once you set up that ARM templates, so these templates can be repurposed to do, basically, for other applications to accelerate that journey. So this is where that expertise comes in, and a lot of the people are actually struggling. A lot of the organizations are struggling. How do I go from point A to point B? So that's a challenge that everybody is facing. But I think that's what we need to look at to kind of solve that problem. But I think that's my point of view on that, Mike. I don't know if it is.
But what you're saying is, as our infrastructure changes from getting in hardware boxes and configuring things and changes into code, we each need to work out a path and build templates that apply to us and our business needs, and then leverage that as we make this cloud move through some of the tooling that's available now that your infrastructure became code as opposed to being hardware piece parts.
Exactly. So now we call this as an infrastructure as code, right? So, it used to be a boxed and, in four walls, but now, it's an infrastructure as code now.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So maybe, Rama, maybe you want to share your point of view on that, like, how do we basically accelerate this journey? I know there are a lot of applications that you guys are doing, especially when it comes to the IoT hub or the API gateway that you guys are building. So, how is this whole mechanism, kind of making sense to you, or do you want to add any pointers on top of this? I think you're on mute, Rama.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Have you?
Yeah, probably you may need to give me a couple of hours to talk on this topic. I can talk for the whole day.
Favorite topics.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, like, from the Lehigh Hanson Waywick, I mean, we have a lot of legacy applications. Like I've been sharing, like where the company is a global company, it has a presence in many countries. The decision from the board was to deploy these applications, any of the customer-facing applications globally, right? So it's quite challenging to a developer come up with a product and then deploy to multiple countries, and especially our country, so has to go through a lot of GDPR compliance, a lot of security concerns. That's one of the big topic. In fact, I have other question for you also to answer for me on that. I'll come back to that later. So that's where, I mean, when we started this, our digital journey, we definitely with a lot of Microsoft stack of applications, but we kind of shift a little bit, not necessarily on the application side, but more on the infrastructure side, where we deploying to the Azure, going to the Kubernetes, and we picked the Red Hat, the OpenShift product to manage this. It's all about the containers and building the microservices. But at the end, if you talk about all these fancy buzzwords and about talking about these great products and tools, all the cutting edge, but at the end, all the data resides on my on-prem. So all my, at this point, still a lot of my source systems, for several reasons of the complaints on different line of products, we have definitely the SAP is our backbone, and we have JD Edwards and a couple of other systems out there, but entire data sources are on the on-prem. All our solutions are kind of, we are going towards more of a hybrid model, where any of this customer facing your web presence to React applications, mobile applications deployed onto these app stores, and everything will be on the React, but we build the microservices. But .NET Core is our core component, where we still with Microsoft and leveraging definitely a lot of and messaging platforms from the Azure framework as well, which some of the areas you guys helped us. Yeah, I mean, it's a great journey, and deploying the container services and the customer facing, and probably I'll take my next question to maybe I'll follow up. I'll have to put you on another question. So these are some of the areas, like I was saying, I think data security, that's what our key, right? So I just want to hear from you. I know you guys are helping us some of the other areas, but on this particular as such, a lot of legacy applications we have that are sitting on the on-prem, we are kind of transitioning onto the Azure offerings out there. But I just want to see, what would you recommend, or some of your experiences on, how I can best build this robust security applications that I can deploy to the Azure.
Right. Yeah. So I think if you look at the security of the apps, and a lot of the people are, very well concerned about the security. Obviously, when all of these applications, including the data and the backbone of these applications in on-prem, so you have a secure firewall and nobody can get in, and you have all the secure access within those applications. So you have a full control when those infrastructure is sitting with you. But obviously now the data has to travel over to the cloud, and there are a lot of questions and a lot of concerns that raises to many people. But I think, in my opinion, Microsoft has done a tremendous job, and putting the security in each and every layer and each and every transaction. So I think the way Microsoft articulates this security is like there is a 6-layered or a 6-pillar type of an approach in the security, starting with the networking itself. So within the networking, there are many layers and many ways that you could do a security. So you could do a network layering controls, you can do a network security groups, and then you can also do a VPN gateway, VPN tunnels you can build, and through that you can enhance the security. And obviously, when all of the incoming and outgoing data that is going in, you want to monitor the traffic, and then you also wanted to build a firewall. So those things are preloaded with your networking. So those things you can enable as a services on the Azure environment, and then start monitoring those things on the network side. Similarly, you could do the same thing on the compute. On the compute too, so there is a whole antivirus and anti malware softwares that are there, so that basically monitors the whole compute power that is there on the virtual machine. And then you can also do an encryption of the entire VM, and then you can also do a security modules, a specific security modules, that hardware, whatever that enforcement that you want to do on the compute side. But again, the next level is related to the storage. On the storage, you can do a RBAC storage, and then you can also do a shared signature access, and then you can also do a couple of interesting things that they have added. So when the data, especially you talk about API gateway, or so where multiple applications, the line of business applications, need to be share the data or consume the data or return the data and things like that. There are a couple of ways that are being introduced. It's basically encryption on the transition, okay, and encryption on the rest. So basically, a lot of the API calls that we do, we make a REST API calls. So you can actually do a REST. You can also do the encryption on that REST mechanism as well. So again, so there are a lot of things that you can do on that front. And then obviously, as you know, there are identity and access management. You can build secure identity, or maybe secure apps and secure data, so only certain people are allowed to access and certain people are denied, and things like that. And on the web application level too, you can enforce the security. You can basically create a layered architecture, and within that layered architecture, you can actually also have a security. And finally, the sixth topic really is about the operations. You can do Azure security. I mean, there is by default, there is an Azure Security Center, and within that Security Center, you can get the application insights. You can do Azure monitoring, Azure logging, and then it also provides the Azure audit board and dashboard and things like that. So there's a whole bunch of ways you can start monitoring and then enforcing the security and all of these things. The minute it is a outbound from your data center to inbound, so the whole transaction is basically encrypted, and you can also do a monitoring of that entire transaction. That's one way. And secondly, when it since as we know, your major operations in Germany, so as we all know, European countries are very particular about GDPR compliance. So it's very important for us to basically know where the data is sitting and how the data is traveling, which data center it is sitting, and all of these things are pretty open in the Microsoft standard. I mean, they have done a pretty good job. They have created all that governance and compliance. So it's just a question of are we enabling the right governance metrics and right control metrics and compliance metrics, and that'll basically follow your GDPR compliance. So I know it's a long answer, but this is one of the very, very important topic, and then it's a concern. It's a concern for many people. So that's why I had to basically give all of these touch points.
Absolutely, I think that's well said. When we are really dealing with any of this microservices architecture, it has to be at a layer level, and also the kind of the line of businesses what we deal with. We have extensively a lot of logistics, heavy logistics are involved. Whenever I want to monitor a truck, where we have some third-party companies who provide these feeds, the trucks gives the real-time feeds on the geolocations and everything. So we got to integrate with them at a very high level, these security levels. And on the Azure cluster itself, because like I said, definitely the traffic manager, that's the one helping us to route any of our Chicago data center to Netherlands, on the Europe and the Asia Pac. So the traffic manager does a great job. So routing these and taking care of the DR setup and everything. So we don't have any concerns. It gives the best performance of these microservices based on this traffic manager. Yeah, I agree. Definitely is at a multiple layer level and addressed at multiple levels and each system level. It's a whole complex topic that needs to be addressed, but that needs to be addressed when you're really deploying this.
One of my favorite topic too.
Yeah. Thank you, Praveen. Yes.
Thank you, Rama. Cody, you've been patiently waiting over there. You've got a question, I know, for Praveen. Cyril, I'll be coming to you right after Cody. So we'll go Cody and then to Cyril. Please, Cody, floor is yours.
Thanks, John. Praveen, so as you know, with our migration from our kind of legacy application into Azure and the cloud, if I'm wanting to build my interfaces into my legacy applications, being ERP, PLM, whatever those might be, do these organizations have connectors or APIs and things like that we can plug into natively within the Azure and the Microsoft stack, or is this something where we're going to incur a lot of cost to build these custom interfaces between the two applications?
Yeah, I think specifically in the Power Platform case, there are a lot of connectors, and the gateway it's already created. So let's say, for example, in many of our businesses today, the backbone is either SAP or Oracle or JDE and things like that, right? So when we are taking the orders, when we are processing the invoices and things like that, so we have to connect to either of these systems as a backbone. But I think on the Power Platform, so they have this connectors, they have this gateways created. So depending upon your subscription model and the licensing model, so all of these connectors are pre-built for you. Let's say you wanted to pull and push the data. So let's say one of the things that may be interested is the invoices are coming in, and we are looking at the invoices, and then obviously depending upon the cost center or depending upon who needs to be approving, and finally it has to go into SAP account payable or SAP account receivables and things like that. If that's my flow, the front end could be any of the Microsoft application, and actually when it comes to the API or the connectors, so this is where Microsoft really shines in thinking about all of that and then creating a pre-built connectors. But again, this depends on the kind of a license model that you have currently, and in my opinion, you don't have to build anything from the scratch. You can leverage what is out there already. But for your custom operations that you want to do. So probably maybe I know nobody's using PeopleSoft these days, but if some of them are still using a PeopleSoft or any other HCM systems, so still we can connect to those systems and we can have our own API gateways written. So again, it depends situation to situation, but I know for the fact that in this case we can start using the API gateway right off the bat and then accelerate the entire process.
That's great information. Thanks, Praveen.
Thank you.
Cyril, over to you. You've been patiently waiting. Your turn. Question away.
Sure. Hey, Praveen. As you know, like we are invested heavily on OpenStack technologies, but I would like to hear from a Azure or Microsoft perspective, what are the different app modernization strategies that we can follow to move the legacy application? And maybe after your response, I can touch upon like a little bit about our journey and also like answer one of Mike's earlier question, like what are the success criteria? So I would like to touch on that.
Yeah, absolutely, Cyril. Yeah, I think there are at least 3 or 4 different strategies or paths that you can choose while you are doing this migration strategy, right? So the first one, it's an easy one. Once you have done the assessment of the environment, it's a lift and shift approach. It's basically minimal code changes. What's out there, you basically lift the whole thing and then move it to the cloud. The simple scenario for that, maybe you have a bunch of custom applications, and then a bunch of transactions that are going on, and then it has some databases and things like that. So the path forward is pretty clear. So what we can do is all of these applications can leverage the IaaS infrastructure as a service. So we can create a bunch of VMs and then start moving and then start lifting and shifting those. So this is a very faster phase, but again, the challenge there is, we're not actually taking a full potential of the cloud. Okay, what was there earlier, you're actually bringing into the cloud. And the second is basically refactoring the whole thing. So to see if there are any of these web applications can be modernized or maybe can be, not containerized. So can be created as a, app services and things like that. So that's the second way of looking at refactoring. And the third way is basically re-architecting the whole thing. So this is where the containerization comes into the picture. With Azure Kubernetes, how we can actually, scale up this application to take the load of these applications and things like that. And the last one is basically to rebuild the entire applications itself. So, to take the full scale of this application. So maybe we wanted to bring the logic apps, maybe we wanted to bring the Azure functions and things like that. And even for the databases too. So, you don't need to necessarily use SQL. So we can use the Cosmos DB and things like that. So we call this as a left shift and right shift. So basically, if you were to go to the left shift, so the effort and the code changes that is required is very less. And when you want to go towards the right shift, so that's where you're reinventing and then basically modernizing and re-architecting the whole thing, taking a full advantage of the cloud. So again, each one of them has its own advantages and disadvantages. And again, based on what fits the need of your goals and your organization strategy, so we can pick either of them. That's my experience basically.
Sure. Thanks, Praveen. And just to touch on that, right? Like I think your strategy number 3 kind of lined up with what we did with one of our apps like 2 years back. As I mentioned earlier, it was the heart of the system was based on C++, and the best part was we didn't have a code, we just had executables. So we had to work the other way around, like reverse engineer to figure out like what the code is. And one of the first strategies that we as a team followed was, hey, forget about everything, like whatever's there, just leave it behind. Think domain, think business domain, like how the business is set up, and then try to logically build those components. And the strategy that we built was based on, let's build all these domain-driven APIs, like microservices, build the entire ecosystem. And that's where like all the CI/CD pipelines, and we went with Docker for our containerization and built the whole ecosystem of microservices. And again, this ties back to the earlier point, like Mike, you asked, like, what is the like a good strategy for us to like fast track this whole cloud migration? The one thing which worked for us very well is to form a separate team. Like, let's not disturb the existing team because they have a day business where they have to support the current platform. And what we did was we carved out a separate team, and their entire focus was just to build this ecosystem of microservices, make them available while your current team is still supporting your existing platform. And then you start like seamlessly plug and play one by one and retrofit them. And over a period of say 6 to 9 months, now I'm proud to say that we are completely out of on-prem. We went from like say 25 plus servers to completely being in the Docker and the cloud world. So that strategy worked out. I'm glad we did that and to make that bold step.
Yeah, I think personally, if you ask, what's the best strategy out there, and what's the recommended approach? I mean, Microsoft has put out some recommendations and some templates out there. But again, the fundamental problem here is each one of our businesses working in a different way. So we can take some key takeaways from their recommendation, but really we need to look at what's our goal and how we wanted to take a full advantage of the cloud. Do we want to invest more time in modernizing these applications and kind of take a full advantage of the cloud? Those are the dependable or a kind of a decision criteria. I mean, there are some references architectures that we have built in the past. So for example, if there is a message communication that is going on, if there is a message brokering services that we need to build, so how is that message reference architecture is looking like when the information is funneling between multiple applications? So we can build one those type of a referenceable architectures, and based on those referenceable architectures we can basically accelerate the whole migration or a modernization process. So again, this comes into the previous topic that we talked about, the landing zone. And once you set up the landing zone, looking at your applications and everything, building the references architecture, and then looking at the application needs, internal users, external vendors, collaboration. So those are the decision factors basically.
Thanks, Praveen. Thanks, Cyril, very much. That was insightful. I know I learned a lot from it. Praveen, before we get into the next question from the panelists, I do have a great one from an audience member I'd like to run past you. It's specific to you. It is, does YASH document and share the learnings and best practices that they create while implementing Azure with existing clients so that new clients can take advantage of these learnings while choosing Azure as a new cloud platform for themselves?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. So, the documentation and the learning has been the key process for YASH. So wherever we do the discovery assessment, or wherever we modernize or migrate or re-architecture or rehost or whatever the things that we do, so we are building all of the documentation. Whenever we come to you, we bring all that suitcase full of documents, and then that will basically accelerate your entire process. So not just that, we have over the period of time, so there are a whole bunch of accelerators that are created. Matter of fact, I think we are right on time to quickly demo and then show how we are going to be accelerating that whole process. So is that okay with you, John, if we quickly jump onto our demo and then show it to the audience on how we do it?
Yeah, Praveen, you're the boss. Why don't you go ahead and go into the demo, and then we can come back if time allows for a couple more questions from the panelists.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So let me go ahead and share my screen. I'm not sure which screen am I. Are you guys able to see my screen?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. The screen that shows this clinic management home. So this is the one you are seeing?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So the reason I ask is, like, when I share my screen, it really doesn't tell me which screen I'm sharing. So that's why I want to double check. Okay. Anyway, so what I wanted to show you guys is we have taken a couple of scenarios here. So there are a couple of applications that we wanted to show it to you guys today. Any organization would have had this timesheet management, and then we have also taken one more application, which is a clinic management application. So both of these applications have been built on a different fundamental .NET framework. So one was built on 3.0, another one was built on 4.5, and then SQL. For the timesheet management. So we are using SQL 2012 as a database, and then we are also using IIS 8.0. And for the clinic management, we are using 3.5 as a .NET framework, and SQL 2008 as a backend, and then the IIS server is 7.0. So that's the fundamental, infrastructure or the hardware of this application. So then there are a whole bunch of tables that we have created here, and obviously there are a bunch of SQL stored procedures and views and things like that. Both of these applications are currently using. So now what I wanted to show you is, so there is this migration assistant tool. So we are going to be running this tool to kind of tell us how this migration or a modernization process can be done. So first, I would be selecting the clinic management application. Before I actually go there, I wanted to show you guys how this application actually looks. So this is one simple application. It's a clinic management application. It has a bunch of functionality here. And then the other one is the timesheet management application. Okay, so so this is a simple timesheet application. We are all pretty familiar how this timesheet application works. I don't need to go into the details and show you guys how this or what this application. So now what I'm going to be doing is I have selected this clinic management, and I'm actually running the assessment report for this application. So as you can see, this application is giving us 4 errors right now. So there are errors related to ISAPI filters, and there are some errors related to traditional way of doing the authentication. So it is giving me a bunch of errors. So this is not really clean application for me to basically, modernize or take a full advantage of the cloud. And I'm in a need basically to do a lift and shift application. So if I wanted to do the complete report of what this application and what these errors, so I can save this application, generate a report, and that report actually spits out a JSON format. And through that JSON format, I can go through a whole bunch of things and then basically see what is this issue, what it is really causing, and where are the challenges. I can make a complete report out of this. So now I know that I am going to be actually lift and shift this application, the clinic management application. So just to accelerate the process, so we have already created a couple of things here. So now I'm going to be signing in my Azure portal. So this is the resource group that we have created over here. And underneath this, there are a bunch of resources that we have created. So in this scenario, so what I'm going to be doing is that since it is a lift and shift operation, we have already migrated using one of our YASH accelerator. We have already lifted it and shift this entire application into this VM. So now I'm going to be RDPing this VM. looking for the password. So this application is already modernized, migrated over to the cloud. And now the same application, this is running on the Azure instance. So we can log into this application one more time and validate the functionality over here. So as you can see, the same application is now running on the cloud. So for this approach, we have done a lift and shift operation, and this application is coming over here. So the second one really is the timesheet management application. For the timesheet management application, what we are going to be doing is, again, we are going to be running the migrator assistant tool. So right now, there's actually one simple error. This is related to the location tags. So again, this is some simple small issue that we can fix it on the host config file. I think one of the issue that happened over the demo preparation was we were adding a bunch of security constraints to the application on the IIS platform over here. I think this was disabled, and that's the reason it was giving. So this application is really ready for the modernization. So in this application, what we are really doing on the Azure front is, if you can notice the Azure. So the bunch of things that we have created here. So starting off with the VNet itself. So we created a VNet for that application, and then we have also created the web application, web service, app services for the timesheet application. There is a database that we have created, and then along with that, we have also created the application insights to see what's going on in this application, and then to control the entire security. So we have also created a key vault for the application access and application security. So now let's try to. Now let's try to browse this application. Okay, so this application that you see is running on the cloud right now. So as you can see, the same application is also running. So behind the scene, a lot of the folks that you are actually looking at the demo. So why it is important and what we are able to do with this demo is there are two different applications that we have taken into the consideration. One is really, both of them are kind of a legacy applications, and one application had some challenges, and it had some issues with the ISAPI connectors, and it also had some dependencies on the COM components, and we had to basically lift and shift that application, bring that entire application as a virtual machine approach onto the Azure cloud. So that's one approach that we have done. And another application that we have done is basically we have modernized the entire thing. So we basically have built the app service, and then we have also built the database, and then for that we have created the VNet and the key vault and things like that. So this is a simple demonstration with the short period of time that we have here, I thought, this will connect to the audience and make sense to everybody on how we do things at YASH. And if you were to scale this whole thing, so obviously, we can scale it up and then bring all this expertise that we have with us, and then, kind of accelerate your journey. So that was a quick demo. So I know we are right on time here. So this is what I wanted to share with you, all of you.
And Praveen, thank you very much for the demo. I know at the top of everybody's mind, you've been teasing at the end of each episode of the 5-part webinar series, this mega raffle and the great prizes that are associated with the mega raffle. I am certain that the audience is waiting with bated breath to find out what the results are of that mega raffle and who gets to take home some of those awesome prizes. What do you have for the audience in terms of today's big reveal?
Yeah, yes. So let me bring this up here. Again, I wanted to share my screen. Is my screen visible?
Not yet, Praveen.
Not yet.
How about now?
Yep, now we have it.
Okay. So so this is the URL for the mega raffle. So this up and running right now. So those who have attended the webinars in the past are qualified to go spin the wheel there. So this is the URL, yash.com/mega raffle. It's all one single word. So please take an advantage, and we will be announcing the winner after you guys spin the wheel, and we will be putting out the winners on the screen. So please take a moment to spin the wheel, and then once this is done, we will be able to know the results. So that's the link to the mega raffle. So at this time, I wanted to give a big shout out to our panelist members. So it's been a very tough task. I mean, for all of these digital leaders to basically take care of their day-to-day work and also spend the time with us on the on this webinar series. It's not an easy job, but they have taken a great step to helping coming onto this platform to talk to us and then share their thought leadership here. So thank you to all of the panel members. Also, I want to thank the entire team, those who have put the tremendous effort to make this as a big success. So the marketing team, Nagaraj's team, and the entire Microsoft Service Line team, and also the PTG team. So big thank you. And without you guys, this webinar would not have been successful. And also, each and every webinar after we finishing, we have been receiving a tremendous feedback via emails, and then once the webinar is completed, some of the people are actually leaving us a great comments and great feedback. Some of them very quickly I wanted to share with you guys, and this is the right and positive feedback that we have received so far. And look at the happy panel members. So I've been, just wanted to say a couple of things here. So I've been watching some of the webinars that others are conducting. People are not happy, but in our webinar, our people and the panel members were always happy. They're sharing all the thought leadership, very excited to see. This is the webinar that you want to be, right? So not the webinar that that's very boring and it's not bringing any value. Why would I want to spend my time? So again, thanks to all of our panel members to happily participate on all of these webinar series, and then share their thought leadership and things like that. So Sachin, how are we doing on the mega raffle?
Praveen, we are still getting the details there. I mean, we haven't done completely that.
Okay.
I think the participants are still trying to play the game.
Okay. So let's give them a few more minutes. Let's also jump on to the next raffle. So this raffle, everybody gets qualified. So all of you, please take an advantage of spin the wheel. You guys can take this link and spin the wheel, and you might get an opportunity to win a gift card up to $100. So again, this URL here is yash.com spin-a-wheel. And if you have any questions, not just from this webinar, even from the previous webinars, if you have any questions, you wanted to get our responses to that, the easy way is to shoot out an email to trailblazer@yash.com, and we will be promised to deliver a response, provide the response to you, back to you in less than 24 hours. One other thing that interesting thing that a lot of people started asking us, that this webinars is like, is it done yet, or are you guys doing more, or do you want to change the frequency of this webinar, maybe two in a week, type of a thing. We started receiving from many people, or many people have requested. So with that positive spirit, so there is more coming in. So stay tuned for the upcoming webinar. So what we are calling that is YASH Cloud Conclave. This is not going to be any series. This is just a one webinar, but this is going to be a different type of a webinar. It'll be like a 4-hour webinar. It'll be very, very technical, and then also on the decision-making front. So how this whole cloud journey and things like that would be help some of the decision maker to make some key decisions on the cloud. So we are going to be launching this 4-hour series. And in this series, we are going to be covering, sorry, this is not a series. In this webinar, the upcoming webinar, we are going to be covering 4 or 5 different topics, and each one of the topic is going to be like a 1-hour topic. And you don't need to be on that 4-hour webinar. Whichever the topic is most appropriate and suitable, you can sign up for that specific topic, and then you can join. And the topics would be something like Power Platform, or Azure modernization, or Teams, or SharePoint modernization, and things like that. And this time around, it'll be more of my team members covering each one of the topic. I would be moderating the whole flow and things like that for this webinar. This is coming in July, sometime in July, after the Independence Day. So something like that we are planning. And a couple other things. I know a lot of the people are seeing me for the first time on the webinar, and if you guys want to stay connect with me for the future updates on the webinars that we are going to be doing, so you can connect me on LinkedIn. Since it is shared on the screen, you can use a phone to basically connect with me, and the same thing with Twitter as well. And my Twitter handle is @TechieKumar. So you can take an advantage of either of these channels to connect with me. And one last thing is, once you close this webinar, so it'll take you to a link where we ask you to give a feedback. It only takes a second, so please provide the feedback using that form. So Sachin, are we ready?
Praveen, I have sent you the names.
You sent an email, or?
I sent an email to you along with the names of the winners.
Okay. Okay, so give me 1 minute, guys. So I'm opening the email, and we will be announcing the winners of the mega raffle. All right, so we got 4 winners or 5 winners here, and I'm putting the names out here. Can I put the names, Sachin?
I think you should announce it.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So the first winner here is Larry Miller. She won the Bose. He won the Bose PC speakers. Amy Phillips. She won the Blue Yeti microphone. Doug Campbell. He won the 34-inch big monitor. Cody Allison. He won the Logitech 4K Brio webcam. Mike Brannon, he won Bose headphones, the noise cancellation, the nice headphones. And Rachel Young, she also won Bose headphones. Congratulations to everybody, those who have won this mega raffle. John, on a closure note, do you want to say anything?
I just want to thank everybody again for their time, from the panelists, from the people behind the scenes that made it all doable and executed it so well. And obviously, thanks to all the viewers that have made this a tremendous success. So 5 webinars. I believe we have over 1,000 total attendees. That's a huge success, and thank you, and look forward to seeing everybody on Praveen and the Microsoft Teams next webinar. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.